Good evening and welcome to the January 19th, 2021 City Council meeting. I'm going to call this meeting to order. If you'll please stand and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Jackie, can you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Hewlin. Here. Parker.
Here.
Kling.
Here.
Schroeder. Here. Southall.
Here.
Marchant.
Here.
Mayor Pepper.
Here. Just for the record, John, Greta, and Greg are online, but they are with us. And also joining us tonight is a Mayor Youth Council sophomore, Brooklyn Cross. Brooklyn, you want to stand up, say hello?
Hi, I'm Brooklyn Cross. I'm a sophomore and this is my first year. Thank you for having me.
Woohoo, we're glad to have you. Thanks for being here. All right, well, we are starting our meeting off slightly different tonight. We have some great things to present, recognize. So I would like to ask Chief Chia to join me and Brent Bowman to please come forward. We are recognizing him for his wonderful years of service. Come up here, we're gonna stand front and center. Chief, I'll let you present that. I'll start with just saying tonight we have a resolution and I'm going to read it all because it's pretty worthwhile. Whereas Brent Bowman retired effective January 4th, 2021 from the position of firefighter paramedic with the city of Indianola after a storied career of 23 years. And whereas a dedicated and professional firefighter paramedic is a vital individual for the fire department to serve the community. And whereas Brent fearlessly and tirelessly fulfilled his duties as firefighter paramedic, as well as acting as a mentor to colleagues throughout his 23 years of employment in service to the Indianola community. And whereas the entire community of Indianola greatly appreciates the work and individual sacrifice put forth by Brent in fulfillment of those duties. And whereas the elected and appointed officials and staff of the city of Indianola will greatly miss his leadership, intelligence, service, and camaraderie. And whereas his true passion is his family. I love that. And whereas now it is time for him to enjoy his family full time. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the elected and appointed bodies of the city of Indianola, Iowa, that Brent Bowman and his 23 years of dedicated service to the Indianola community are hereby recognized and appreciated. And be it further resolved, all citizens of Indianola, Iowa are urged to recognize the distinction Brett's efforts have brought our community, encourage all citizens to applaud and celebrate this occasion. In witness thereof, I have unto set my hand and have caused the seal of the city of Indianola, Iowa to be affixed on this 19th day of January 2021. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Brent, and in your recognition for your career with the city of Indianola, we'd like to give you this plaque, and it reads, "In recognition of your outstanding commitment and service as a member of the Indianola Fire Department and the community it serves. Your contributions will not be forgotten and the leadership you demonstrate." And then your dates, August 31st and January 4th. Yeah, thank you.
Join me again.
Three words, if that's okay.
Yes.
I want to thank the city of Indianola for taking a chance on me, hiring me 23 years ago. It's been a quick 23 years. It's been a great venture, a great journey, I guess I want to say. And along that journey, I hope that I've been able to make a difference in a few people's lives within the community of Indianola, and hopefully I've made hopefully a positive influence on three people within the department itself. There's been many great things that's happened over those years with the fire department, and especially over the last few years under the watch of Chief Chia. And I know that there's a lot of interesting and exciting things coming up here in the not too distant future for the fire department. And it's been an honor and a privilege to serve the citizens of Indianola, the city of Indianola, and the fire department of Indianola. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Then let's have the family come up real quick. Perfect. Your family, please. These are special moments.
One of my biggest new roles in retirement is being Mr. Mom.
Chief and Mayor, you guys want to get in there too?
Sure.
Chief will be sitting here.
And just so you know, my family, this is my wife Jennifer, my oldest son Ross, he's 13, and twin little ones, 5 years old. This is Trey K.
Wonderful. Thanks for being here. All right, I'm going to stay out front because I'm now going to get my first swearing in. I'm very excited. I'm going to ask Ross Marshall, Tanner Ortland, and Nicole Stewart to come join me up front. We are going to give the oath of office to our three newest officers. Hello, Pam Pepper. Welcome. 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 Glad you're here. All right, we're going to do this individually. So Ross, you're first. Raise your right hand. I, Ross Marshall,
I, Ross Marshall,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
that I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all duties of police officer
discharge discharge all duties of police officer
of the city of Indianola, Iowa,
of the city of Indianola, Iowa,
as now and hereafter required by law.
as now and hereafter required by law.
That's it. You got it. Congratulations. All right. We'll take a picture of the group afterwards. All right, Shane, are you ready? You're gonna say the same thing. Join me. I, Tanner Ortland,
I, Taylor Olson,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all duties of police officer
discharge all duties of police officer
of the city of Indianola,
of the city of Indianola,
Iowa, I'm sorry,
Iowa,
and now and hereafter required by law.
now and hereafter required by law.
That's it. Congratulations. Welcome. Thank you. Nicole for last, the best for last. Ready, Nicole? I, Nicole Stewart,
I, Nicole Stewart,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all duties of police officer
discharge all duties of police officer
of the city of Indianola, Iowa,
of the city of Indianola, Iowa,
as now and hereafter required by law.
as now and hereafter required by law.
That's it. Congrats. You want to go sign your paper, and then we'll do a quick picture, and guys will come back up. And then if you have family here, we'd love to have them in the pictures too. We can do that. I'll join, then I'll jump out for just them. Okay.
Nice smile.
Perfect. Do you have family here? Anybody have family? Nope. All right. Welcome to our newest officer.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for grabbing the chair. Well, nothing better than recognizing some going out and some coming in. What a sweet night for Indianola. Thank you. All right, we're moving on to open forum. If you're here and you'd like to discuss something that is not yet on our agenda, please make sure you fill out a form and give that to our assistant city clerk, and then come forward. I think Kathy, you find, so please come forward. State your name and your address for us, please.
Kathy Stanfield, 407 West Ashland. And a couple of years ago, when the old courthouse came down, people started asking, what's going to happen to those Art Deco lights on the east steps? And so at that time, I went to the city and thought, somebody can, you know, what I was hearing was they're going in storage. And I know what that means. That means nobody will ever see them again. So I thought, somebody will surely come forward and, you know, I can get somebody to help pay to restore them. And so I went to the county board of supervisors meeting and asked if I got them funding for restoring them, would the supervisors find a place in the new Justice Center to put them? And the supervisors, including Doug, said yes. So lots of things, no courthouse being built and pandemic and whatever. We're finally have a Melody Kirk from Carlisle and I are finally spearheading a fundraising effort to get the lights restored. One of the lights is still in storage, but just because. And the other one I took down to Troy Williams at Williams Machine Shop in Lacona, keeping it in county, and he can do all the metal work on restoring the two lights. A lot of little pieces are missing for under $2,000. And then there's another, we've tossed in another 1,000 for the plexiglass, and plexiglass was the wonder material of the time. So it's authentic. And then we'll get new lighting put in it with, you know. And anyway, so we are starting a fundraising And we'd love to see big donations, but we would love to see whole bunches of people sending in $20, $30. Yeah, I remember the lights. Here's the money. And so I've got some, the basic information I'm going to pass around to everybody, but the donations can be made to checks written to the Warren County Historical Society with a notation for courthouse lights. The treasurer has agreed to handle all the money work for us. Okay. So it's, she's all certified and bonded and all the proper stuff. Anyway, so they can be sent to the Warren County Historical Society, Box 256, Indianola, Iowa, and designated courthouse lights. And thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy, for
Thank you, Kathy.
caring about those lights and bringing this to our attention.
Somebody needed to do it.
That's right. We like saving our history.
Becky, do you want to repeat one more time where they should send that, just so people can get that written down?
I can do it while she's
Sure.
passing.
Yeah,
I'm
I
happy to
have
do it. Sure. Again, you can make your checks out to
The Warren County
County
Historical Society.
Box 256 and send it to Indianola, Iowa, and then make sure you designate it for courthouse lights.
Because the Historical Society needs money too, so if it doesn't say lights, they're gonna keep it.
Thank you, Kathy. Any other public comment for the council tonight? Okay.
Thank you.
If not, then we're going to move forward with the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Mayor, I'd like to pull an item, please. I'd like to pull item 7B claims.
7B on the claims,
Yes,
okay?
please.
Is there a second to approval?
I'll second.
And there's a second. Okay, so we're voting for everything except for B. Any conversation, anything else we need to discuss before we vote? This is roll call. Jackie, please call the roll.
Councilmember Schroeder,
Aye.
Southall,
Aye.
Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Kling.
Aye.
Motion carried. Wonderful. All right, claims on the computer printout for January 19th. Heather.
I am pulling that because the last item on there is a payment to the YMCA of Greater Des Moines for employee maintenance expense.
Okay. So you will be abstaining then?
That's correct.
That's what you're saying. Okay,
Yeah.
so is there a motion to approve that then?
Move to approve.
Second.
Jackie, will you call the roll?
Councilmember Southall,
Aye.
Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Abstain.
Parker,
Aye.
Kling,
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Motion carries with the one abstention noted. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to City Treasurer's Report, right? Andy's coming, okay? And Doug Scholl's coming, I think, too. at some point.
Yes.
Perfect. We'd like to welcome Doug Scholl back to the house. Andy, good to see you too.
Thank you. Okay, I thought I'd just give a quick presentation before Doug talks about the Treasury Report, just because we've gone through some changes with IMU. The Treasury Report is fairly familiar looking document. We've had one for a while, since March and April, since the IMU went over to Elation. And so working with our auditor, Robert Andrus, who is also now the IMU auditor, we put together the a joint Treasury Report for June, and figured out where we both entities stood at the end of June and then moving forward. So this is the Treasury Report that's in your packet for June. And you see that we have all the city funds there, and at the bottom, notice that the bank account number and the money that we have in our funds is off by that amount. And the reason for that is that in the city's
investment accounts and bank accounts, we're holding some money of IMU. They're about 15 million that they have in their funds in elation. So this is the amount that we have on our report, and all these fund balances that we've had in this Treasury report matches with Robert's audited numbers. And so this is the amount that at the end of June that we were holding on to for IMU. And then, by the way, if you have any questions, just let me know. Just jump in. So for July, what we did was we went through and again had all the city funds. And then on the second page of the Treasury report, as you recall, we had the IMU funds, and we'll change this. I don't have the headings on here because they're on the first page, but we'll change that for future reports. That that it's the beginning, revenue, expenditures, transfers in and out. Of course, we don't have any transfers in and out because now they're in elation. So these columns will remain blank. But we did set this money aside. This is from the June report. So that's the money that we have for IMU that we're setting aside. And what we anticipate that when we get up the Treasury report, which we're hoping to get up to current time, we'll be transferring this money over to IMU. But we have revenue coming in and going out because we still do their payroll. And we still do Wells Fargo, the procurement cards. So when they buy stuff, we spend it, and then they reimburse us. They reimburse the city for that. And then community development also takes permit fees for the electric and water meters. So we still have revenue coming in, and we still have expenditures going out. But these numbers should fairly remain. There shouldn't be that much difference except for the permit fees because we're getting reimbursed for the payroll and the Wells Fargo, and then we'll remit their revenues to them for later for the permit fees. We did have an adjustment in July. This is for March utilities. They had paid us and paid the city for March utilities, but they paid us again. It was just some confusion with with the conversion and everything. So that's why that adjustment's there. So we're putting that again aside for IMU, and so their amount that we're setting aside for them is that amount plus the ending of the revenues and expenditures for July. So then, as we move towards August, just the next page, we'll have all the city funds again, city bank accounts, and then that second page again for IMU. Again, here's the money from July. We did have a slight adjustment, not sure what that was for, but we did have a slight adjustment again in August, but we have some revenues going in and expenditures again going out for those three items that I mentioned. And so you'll see in future Treasury reports, you'll see this revenue and expenditures. This adjustment should go away. We shouldn't have any more adjustments. Robert knew that we were gonna, because of their conversion and the separation of the funding, that we were going to have some kind of adjustments that were going to be needed to be made along the way because of some of the challenges that we've had with the conversion to elation for IMU. So, but we're getting that straightened out and we're on the way now. So, any questions on any of that?
Maybe I'll just mention,
Sure.
In case people don't know what elation is, the city and IMU both use the same database accounting system. IMU has moved to a different system, and that's what's caused this rub. Anybody that's gone through any kind of database conversion knows they're ugly. It's never as easy as they say it will be. And so that's what we've been doing. So I want to thank Andy and Jackie for their loyal and dedicated hours of service of trying to get this figured out and working with our partners at IMU to get this all situated and straight. It's been a big job, but that's what we're trying to do now is catch up and then move forward and have our separate accounting, but there's still things that we share that'll continue to remain in our report. Did I say that?
Yes.
Right? Perfect. Good. Other questions? Any thoughts for Andy? Thank you for that explanation, Andy. Very helpful. Thank you for all your efforts, Jackie. Thank you for all your efforts.
I'll turn it over to Doug for the comments that he'd like to make?
Here comes our city treasurer.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you, Mayor and council members. Reports that are before you are for the months of June, July, and August, and maybe just a few comments. Number one, there's really some really unusual items of which Andy just talked about the $1.2 million. It's a very unusual thing. When I compared June of 19 to June of 20, one really positive thing came out of that, and that's that the general fund balances grew by almost 12%. And that to me, that's the foundation of the city, and that's very, very important. And I noticed tonight on the agenda, I think you're going to issue $7.5 million worth of bonds, and probably the stronger your fund balance is, probably the better your interest rate's going to be. And I'm assuming you probably issue those over a 20-year period. So it makes a lot of difference. So that's a really positive thing that happened between a year ago and today. Another thing unusual was that normally in the investment account, there's like 38 or $40 million. Well, when IMU takes out, I think Andy mentioned 15, whatever the amount is, obviously that investment account, if you were to look at it last year and then look at it this year, significant difference. And the reason being is they took out whatever, 12 or 15 million or whatever happened. And then there's some other things that, like between August a year ago and August today, that local option sales tax grows about $1.6 million. So that makes a difference in fund balances. And then the TIF, I probably need to do a little investigation there, but it grew like $1.7 million. And so I know there's a good explanation, and when things grow, that's usually good. And then the construction of the sewer plant, that fund balance went down like almost 992,000. So you have lots of unusual transactions, and I know that probably for the next 15 months, you're going to have a lot of transactions on that sewer plant. So those were just some observation. There's an awful lot of numbers there, and the print's pretty, the font or whatever they call it's pretty small, but I think that, and Andy also indicated that the auditors have fundamentally agreed, or probably do agree with the numbers. So that's a good thing. And hopefully the city and IMU, whatever the difference might be, it will be small. We hope that does happen, because I'm sure if it's normal, there will be some differences. But anyway, that's sort of my 10,000 words. Anything that questions or whatever. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Doug. So I need a motion to approve the city treasurer's report for June, July, and August. They can all be in one. Okay.
Second.
Okay. That's us. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Doug. Appreciate that. And thanks, Andy and Jackie, again for all your work. All right, next one is receive and file the EMS billing activity for May through August 2020. Do we have any conversation on that, or are we just moving to approve?
I just have a comment. I think it would be nice maybe if we explain to anyone listening why there's always a difference in what we bill and what we collect, and why that is. Is Greg still here?
He's probably doing some of the recognition for Brent, but
That's right.
so we've been doing these reports. This is our billing services is through a third party. A lot of times there's just like you would with a normal insurance provider, there's discounts applied to networks. There's discounts that are applied to Medicare and Medicaid. So that's normally what the differences will be. This is just the activity we did. Andy will talk about this later in the study session, but the GEMT, that's something new that's going to hopefully help some of that. The GEMT is a program through the state that the state has enacted within the last year that allows us as a public entity to recoup some of that lost revenue, whereas like private ambulance services can charge higher. We charge what our costs are, and so this is a similar program that's throughout the country where public entities will be able to recoup more of that revenue that is discounted.
I just
because
think
of
people
other-
don't realize, I know I didn't until I was looking at a statement from my own dad, and it's amazing to me the difference that we just can't get, and it's a real hardship on every small town, I'm sure not just Iowa, but every small town community, so I think people are aware of that.
Councilman Schroeder, we had run something in, I think last year in our weekly email that showed what our prices were compared to and what we get reimbursed for. So we can probably run that again. Yeah.
I just think it's a good
Yep.
thing for people to remember because sometimes they're looking for memorials or donations and things, and it's nice to make up that difference.
Great point. Thank you, Gwen, for pointing that out. All right, any other questions, thoughts? Is there a motion to approve the EMS billing activity from May through August?
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. All right, moving on to council reports. First one up, Greater Des Moines Convention Report. John Parker.
I actually don't have a report. I apologize. I didn't get back to Jackie fast enough. We actually have our first meeting, Q1 meeting on tomorrow. So as soon as I have that, then at the next meeting or the meeting after that, then I'll report back.
Okay, no problem. Thanks, John. All right, Metro Advisory.
I have, the two reports are very, very brief.
Okay.
Metro Advisory, basically, there were two main things. The one was a presentation on the from the Polk County Housing Assistance, and they're just swamped. The main takeaway from that, the gentleman who was giving the presentation said, this is the first time he remembers there are people not only coming and asking and looking for money for rent, but they're seeing people with mortgages they're not being able to pay now. So that was one big takeaway. And the other was a presentation. Greg Edwards gave an update on the CVB. And the two main takeaways that I took from this was the fact that he said their budget was cut by 50%. And the other one was, he said, they don't really think they'll be back to normal till 2024. So those to me, that's the two big takeaways. So.
Yeah, there's been some serious impact there.
Oh, and Bravo, sorry.
Thank you for the Metro Advisory. All right, under Bravo.
On Bravo, our next board meeting isn't till March, but I was notified and asked last week if I would once again be on the Community Investment Committee. And the Community Investment Committee is the grant making committee. And I think this is my 6th time, I think, on that committee. And we'll start reviewing grant applications starting next Wednesday. And they're not sure how many there'll be. The last time there were about 40. And it takes a few weeks to get through those. So so that's always exciting. At least there will be money there is some money that's available. So and that's pretty much all I have.
Organizations will appreciate that tremendously. Thank you, Bob, for both those reports and for your work with both of those. John, we look forward to your report at the next meeting or next month. Okay, so we'll move on then. Receive and file the Planning and Zoning Commission annual report for 2020. That shit was in your packet. Here comes Charlie. He's going to give us some highlights.
Good evening. Yeah, really quick. Just want to highlight, first of all, one thing on there that really stood out this year overall was the Planning Commission's attendance. I think we can attribute a lot of that to the fact that we were using Zoom for most of the meetings this year, which made attendance much easier for the commission members. So just want to applaud their attendance because it was much improved this year, but again, with Zoom. But overall, 42 items in total that they reviewed this year, 36 recommendations made to the city council, and the city council did concur with all of those recommendations, which is a good thing usually. So commission's doing their job. They're getting the information to council, and I do applaud their efforts this year. But if there's any questions on the report, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions from the council?
I appreciate the report. It's really great.
Very thorough.
Great
They've been
to do their
busy,
work.
which is good. We like you to be busy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
All right, is there a motion then?
I'll move. Second.
Okay. All those in favor of receiving this, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The mayor just lost her wording. Thank you. Exactly. All right, mayor's report is next. Just a couple little things. I've been having great fun. I met with our mayor's youth council last Wednesday morning, got to meet with them in person. That's always fun to be with a bunch of high schoolers at 7 a.m. They don't have finals, so I thought I'd bring a quiz. And so we quizzed them on Indian effects. And I think they learned a couple things, but it was great fun to be with them. So always fun to be with them. We're looking forward to, several of us are going to be joining the chamber on February 4th for their annual business meeting and award ceremony. So we're looking forward to that. Thanks to Councilwoman Greta Southall. We'll be meeting with some folks here yet this week on re-engaging our Human and Civil Rights Commission. What does that look like? What will that entail? So thank you, Greta, for coordinating that. And then just a reminder, we have a special election coming up on March 2nd, and I've heard that absentee ballots will be available for those that are interested.
And we don't know when yet, right?
Not yet, nope. They will let us know. It's all dependent on how fast the printer can print them after filings have happened. All right, moving on then. Anything else? Let's go into old business. Receive and file the Stormwater Master Plan. Here comes AP. You had a big report, AP.
Snyder and Associates presented that. So if you recall, during late last year, Mark Land with Snyder and Associates presented to you the findings of the stormwater audit and the master plan findings. So in a nutshell, the stormwater audit completed a review of all the parcels in Indianola, ensuring that the stormwater utility rates are being accurately charged. As a result of the audit and the stormwater master plan, again in a nutshell, we had about, they had listed about $6.3 million of capital projects, which can be completed in about 20 plus years using the current utility rate. Or you can choose to, at a later time, choose to increase the utility rate. So in a nutshell, again, this item is basically formally accepting the report, the stormwater master plan, and the audit recommendations. Some of the items are already included in our draft budget recommendations in our capital projects. So basically, we want the council to formally accept.
Sure, Ryan.
If I could just add on to that, the audit was very helpful. As AP mentioned, there's this master plan identified 18 key projects for our community to undertake to help with stormwater. And in order to fund that, we have the stormwater utility fee. And so as part of that, we wanted to make sure that all the parcels were being charged accurately and fairly. And as part of the audit, we were able to identify between $50,000 and $60,000 of just parcels weren't charged correctly, we're picking up their fair share. So once this is received and filed, I think tomorrow we've got a meeting with our partners at IMU to talk about what needs to take place in order to correct those billings moving forward. This is not an issue with IMU. This is just part of the process. So, this is a very good thing for our community. And then, as AP mentioned, some of the recommendations are in our draft budget, and we are going to continue to work on the other recommendations as we proceed forward.
Thank you. I want to just say again, thank you. Love getting data. Great to have a report, very thorough report. So thank you for gathering all that. It helps us make educated decisions. So appreciate that. Is there any other questions or thoughts you want to share? Hearing none, how about we have a motion to accept the Stormwater Master Plan?
I move to accept and receive and file the stormwater master plan.
Okay,
Second.
perfect. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. And next is 506 West Second Avenue. Charlie, you'll give us a little update. There's a couple pieces to this.
Okay, really quick here on the screen, you can see the property that we're looking at. This is actually 3 properties right here. The 2 properties on the west side are actually owned by a different property owner the city owns. You kind of see that jut there in that line owns this property right here. That's 506 West Second. Developer on this one, really quick, council will recall that there was a purchase offer extended to the city on this piece of ground. The developer proposes to build 3 duplexes, one on the 506 lot that the city owns and 2 others on the 2 lots to the west. Generally will look like this right here. One thing to note is there was a previous offer on this one that was taken, or the offer expired on that one. This was the same concept that was presented in that offer. The developer in this one has indicated that he will have duplexes that will look generally like this. This is the duplex that's included in the development agreement. If there is some change to this in the future, we will come through the process of amending the development agreement and putting the new attachment in there. But as of right now, this is what we believe it'll look like. Once we get to that point, if it is any different, it will come back in front of council again. Really quick going over the development agreement. So as part of the D&D program, the city does have a policy that states that we have to make our money back on the lot, the city's investment back on that lot in 10 years. This particular development agreement is a little bit weird in the fact that the developer in this does not propose to start building until 2022. So you'll see here on the screen above, that's why that improvement value in year 1 is the 8,100. That is the actual current land value of that. So we're assuming through this next year that will stay at the 8,100. So everything after that is calculated. You'll see tax abatement for the 5 years starts in year 2 here and then goes down to year 6. And with a minimum assessment of 238,937, we make 32,125 back, which is exactly the city's investment into that property. So part of the development agreement, we do have that minimum assessment included in there that will be signed by the assessor and then filed when we, if council does agree to sell the property when those papers get filed. So any particular questions on the sale or the property, I'd be happy to answer them.
Looks really nice.
Excited to get that done.
Yes, agreed. Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
You will need to open the public hearing as part of this.
Okay. So I want to open the public hearing on the proposed development agreement and sale of the real property located at 506 West 2nd Avenue. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Jackie, do you want to call the roll, please?
Councilmember Parker,
Aye.
Kling,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Southall,
Aye.
Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin.
Okay, motion carries. So now we just need, anybody want to make a comment on that, have a question, concern, please feel free, come forward. Hearing none, seeing none. Close the public hearing. Do I need a motion for that? No. Yep. Okay, motion to close the public hearing.
I so move.
Second. Okay. Jackie, call the roll.
Councilmember Schroeder,
Aye.
Southall,
Aye.
Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin.
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Kling.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. So then we're looking for a resolution making the final determination on potential sale of interest in real property and approving and authorizing execution of a development agreement by and between the City of Indianola and Sandquist Investments LLC.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Ryan, are you coming to say something about that?
No, I'm actually just coming up to help Rick on the next item.
Okay. All right. Jackie, you want to call the roll then?
Councilmember Schroeder,
Aye.
Southall,
Aye.
Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin.
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Kling.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Perfect. All right. And then we have a resolution accepting easements and approving the final plat for Williams Terrace Plat 1 located in the 1600 block of North 9th Street. Charlie.
Hi again. Okay, so this one, council may recall, and I know Mayor, you weren't here at the time, there was a rezoning on this property that was done back in May and June of this year. The proposal at that time was to build a 50-unit senior citizen apartment complex that would be located on there. This is the subdivision plat to essentially start the process of the transfer of the land and all of that. So as part of this, we did review some existing conditions that were out there, as well as some plans that we have for the area. Wanted to note two things on the plat. There's an existing 50-foot stormwater easement that's located on the south end of that property line. When we reviewed this one, we identified that we needed a much smaller area than that, about a 40 by 350 foot stormwater easement. That easement's there's an outfall of a pipe that comes off 9th Street that flows into this area. So they do identify that 40 by 350 stormwater easement on there, then they're going to at a later time come back and ask the council to vacate the larger 50-foot easement. So that was noted on the plat. The second thing is there's a 15-foot trail easement as well that is being dedicated as part of this. That is done as part of the Indianola Trails plan that I know the council recently looked at and updated. So that does meet that plan. Two other things, the developer has asked for a waiver from the requirements for the width to depth ratio of the lot. As noted in that, that was the developer's way to kind of create a suitable transition from the residential area to the south to the industrial area in the north, and that was the most economical way to make that work. So staff did recommend approval of that. The Planning and Zoning Commission has also recommended to the council to approve that. Last thing is the commission did have a few recommendations on there, and that was that this item come forward. Once staff has reviewed all the documentation, we have reviewed the documentation. I know the developer is waiting on a few signatures from mortgage companies and one not, but we will not release a resolution if that is signed until we get all that documentation. So any other questions on this, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you for the overview. Greatly appreciate it. Okay, is there a motion then?
I'll make motion.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay. Jackie, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Parker,
Aye.
Kling,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Southall,
Aye.
Marchant,
Aye.
Hewland.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thanks. All right, next one is the trunk and outfall sewer and south plant lift station upgrades. We have a couple items under here. I think Rick's going to give us an update with the assistance of Brian.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is Rick Graves, the wastewater superintendent. The first, this is the second phase of the water resource recovery facility, and the trunk sewer and outfall sewer are part of this project. And the trunk sewer consists of 36-inch and 42-inch pipe that will connect to the manhole south of the existing plant and run north along Cabot Creek. And the last 1,300 feet will run in the east ditch of the 110th before hooking onto the sewer on the north side of Grime Street that was part of the plant project. The route chosen only required 3 easements that HR Green has already secured, so we're good on that part. Next slide. The outfall sewer will convey the flow from the new plant to Middle River across the north part of the city farm. The sewer is 42 inches in size and is approximately 3,000 feet long. So in both projects, they're estimated to be about 6.5 million to complete both sewers. And the other one will be South Plant lift station upgrade. The upgrade will consist of a new wet well, a dry well, flow measurement flume, and 3 chopper pumps to eliminate daily staff visits to clean the manual bar screen. This project will also have new controls that are needed to communicate with the new plant. And once this lift station is done, all 7 lift stations will be ready to have the control upgrades that will be able to connect to the new plant once it's all done. So, and bid opening for both these projects is scheduled for February 16th. So,
good.
And that's all I have.
Okay. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, just that Rick covered. There's 3 items on the agenda: plans and specs for the wastewater, the water resource recovery facility trunk sewer line and outfall. So those are the first 2 slides. Then the item 4B, approving plans and specs for this project. And then item C is the resolution setting the public hearing for those items together. And these are all budget activities.
Lots of work, but once this gets done, boy, our lift stations will be in great shape and our new facility will come online and we're gonna have the best water in town. All right, council, is there a motion then for a resolution approving the plans and specifications for the water resource recovery facility, trunk sewer and outfall sewer improvements?
Move to approve.
Okay, who wants to second it? Okay. Jackie, can you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Schroeder. Aye. Southall.
Aye.
Sargent.
Aye.
Hewlin.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Kling.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, how about a motion for the resolution approving plans and specifications for the South Plant Lift Station upgrades?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Oh, we'll give it to John
Give it to
Parker.
John.
All right, Jackie, can you call the roll?
Councilmember Parker.
Aye.
Kling.
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Southall.
Aye.
Sargent.
Aye.
Hewlin.
Aye.
Motion carried. That's great. Thank you. And then a motion for the resolution setting a public hearing on the plan specs, form of contract and estimate of costs for the water resource recovery facility, trunk sewer and South Plant lift station upgrades.
Move to set the resolution.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay. Jack, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Southall.
Aye.
Sargent.
Aye.
Hewlin.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Kling.
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Motion carries. Good deal. Thanks, team. All right, we're going to move on to some new business. First one is the first consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 151 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Indianola, making certain amendments to the adopted residential code. Charlie.
Really quick on this one. So 2020 brought some challenges and some of the issues that we were dealing with in our department. One of the bigger ones where we saw a lot of accessory buildings or sheds pop up in front and side yards. So city code requires, our city zoning code requires that sheds be located in the rear yard. Typically, we got these by complaint. We would investigate it, inform the property owner that there is an issue. In all cases, they had to come in front of the Board of Adjustment to get variances for them. Some of those variances were approved for hardship reasons, others were not. And the ones that were not, there's quite a bit of expense to the property owner who's invested money in a permanent building in most cases and having to either move it or demolish it, move it, whatever that may be. So after we got the fourth one, we kind of sat down and identified that we probably need to make a change to code because we're seeing some issues here. Current residential code says that as long as you're putting up an accessory building under or if it's under 200 square feet, you don't need to get a permit from our office. However, just because you don't need to get a permit from our office still means that you have to meet code. The disconnect becomes there is that we are not having that interaction with a lot of people, citizens, to let them know what the code is, and then they presumably will be putting it wherever they think they should be putting it. So took a look at that, and I think what we identified was we need to lower that that square foot threshold down a little bit to be able to get these people to come in and talk to us to kind of identify what is appropriate, what is not appropriate. When you're looking at accessory building, first of all, you're looking at a pretty low cost permit to begin with, about $30, $40, maybe $50, depending on the cost of construction of the permit. So it's not a money issue or anything like that that we're trying to get. We just want to make sure we're having this interaction before people put these up. So we worked, kind of did some research to what other communities do. You can see in that memo that we included there that shows that research and what the exempted square foot is. You can see that 200 square feet that we currently have is pretty high. Did maps, I think, Waukee, and Waukee did indicate they're looking at even lower in theirs, I believe. So we then worked with our Board of Adjustments since they are the ones who review the variances, got their feedback as well. We ultimately landed on amending that section of code to knock that threshold down to 80 square feet, but then also add that if they are going to be at that, it has to be of movable design. That way, if we do run into an issue after we hit that 80 square feet, and it does need to be moved, it's easily moved at a low cost to the property owner. So that's the first part of this amendment. Second part is through inspections, we've noticed kind of I don't want to say a loophole necessarily in our code, but one of the things that the city has allowed, you're required when you build a new house to fire protect the basement. That's typically done by putting drywall in the basement ceiling. A lot of cases that becomes very cost prohibitive as well too, because when a property owner then goes and finishes their replacement after the fact, they're tearing that stuff back out and redoing it anyways. We came up with an alternative where you can essentially conceal the mechanical equipment in the basement into a room and kind of fire protect it, fire block it, and all of that. So if a fire does break out in that equipment, it's contained to that room for quite a long period of time before it then spreads to the rest of the house. The thought is you give citizens, property owners a little bit of advance notice that there's a fire in the house, they have more time to get out. One of the issues that we're running into is that the code doesn't directly say that there's smoke detectors that are required inside those rooms, only somewhere in the basement. And we run into issues where people put the smoke detectors outside that room. The issue there is that smoke detector is not going to pick up that fire if it's properly sealed within that mechanical room, which kind of defeats the purpose of sealing up the mechanical room. So we're simply adding another amendment in here that would say one fire detector, smoke detector has to be located inside that room. And then you would also have to do a proper door on that as well to contain that fire within that room. So just a few changes that we're making on them. I think for the most part, it benefits the community and upgrade of what we currently have. And any questions on them, we have to answer them.
I don't have a question. I have more of a comment. I wanted to say it was really helpful to see the comparison, what other communities are doing. Not that we need to follow what they're doing, but it's nice to know what the standard is. And we were extremely high. So that was helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, that was kind of a shock, I thought.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, I appreciate you doing it. I feel there's a lot of complaints in my ward about that, so I appreciate you working on that.
And good to always be reviewing.
Yes.
Can we work smarter, not harder? And what makes sense? I mean, and also is I would advise, come talk to Charlie. If you got a question, you're gonna build a building, come talk to him. It's well worth your time. He's lovely to visit with.
And quite a few people do. It's just, we do run into a few people every so often.
Right, and I think they think it's not that big of a deal, but there can be some financial implications for not doing it.
Thank you.
Okay,
All right. Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, Jackie, please call the roll.
Councilmember Parker,
Aye.
Kling,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Southall,
Aye.
Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin.
Aye. Motion carries. Charlie thought he was off the hook, but he's back. Resolution renaming portions of R63 highway within the corporate limits of Indianola, Iowa.
All right, council on November 16th did direct staff to look at an issue on our 63 highway. The issue being that there are a few residents who live out there who are experiencing GPS issues, delivery issues based off them having a city address on a county named road. So we took a look at this, brought this forward to the Planning and Zoning Commission to try to get an appropriate name. As we mentioned in here, last street we have named in the city right now is Y Street, because going from east to west, we go, B, C, D, all the way down to Y. So the last available name we have when we're using the letters is Z. However, you've got multiple blocks in between Y and R63, so it wasn't appropriate to put Z on this one, just because you have nothing to do in the middle once that land develops then. We also looked at our comprehensive plan. Comprehensive plan does show for commercial growth past R63 to the west, just kind of stripping Highway 92. So in staff's opinion, it wasn't appropriate to come up, or it wasn't necessary, I should say, to come up with a new naming convention once we got past R63. So that kind of opened some options a little bit. We did work with both the police and fire chief on this as well to kind of see, as far as emergency response, if they had any issues with what we were looking at. And ultimately, they didn't have any concerns on this. So the recommendation that came forward was to name it South Wesley, is it street? Yeah.
Lane.
Lane. Was it Lane?
That's what's in the resolution.
Okay. Well, anyways, yeah, we'll double check that. No, South Wesley Street,
Yeah,
resolution say Lane.
I thought it was gonna be lane or road, but
Yeah, it's street, and I'll have to look back at that. I'm pretty sure it's street.
And that's based off of that area used to be called Westwood Corners,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, it's street. It's street in the resolution. Okay, confuse it a little bit. So South Wesley Street is what it is. Street does go north and south. That is what our code says. But again, that's based off the fact that this is commonly referred to, from what I understand, as the Wesley Corner. Wesley Woods is a little bit south here. Furthermore, there is a subdivision that's located on the southwest corner of that intersection that's known as the Wesley Corner subdivision. So it's kind of been identified as that. One thing to note, you can see on the screen here above, kind of where that red line is. We're breaking the renaming right here. Looks kind of arbitrary, I know, when you look at it here. However, the north-south separation in the city of Indianola happens at First Street, First Avenue, whatever the east-west one is. That would generally be in about this location if you do look at it on a map if that were to come out. So that is the general break point of the north-south road. So instead of having to rename that next portion up northwestly, we just stopped right there and figured when we do get development that comes in at a later date and time that we'll address it then. So any questions on that? Again, the Planning Commission did recommend the South Wesley Street to the council for renaming. So
Thanks for doing that.
Yes, and very thorough, great explanation. Questions from council? How about a motion then?
I so move.
Jackie, you can figure out. One of them gets it and one of them gets a second. All right, let's vote. Jackie, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Southall,
Aye.
Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Kling,
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thanks. All right, resolution approving temporary road closures for the 2021 right-of-way construction program. That's always a good thing. We like improvements. AP, what do you got?
So the state code, Iowa State Code requires a formal resolution be adopted for a road closure. So what we are presenting is an annual resolution or resolution to be adopted annually to allow right-of-way construction, street improvement, public improvement in streets, emergency road closures, lane closures due to utility repairs. So this allows staff to authorize the road closures.
Yes, that means road improvements. So questions for AP? Okay, is there a motion?
I'll so move.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Jackie, please call the roll.
Councilmember Southall,
Aye.
Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Kling,
Aye.
and Schroeder.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. And then a resolution approving a professional service agreement with Snyder and Associates for Valley Place pavement reconstruction. AP.
So the Valley Place is actually it's called Valley Drive. So we would like to correct that. Valley Drive is located near True Bank and ZZ3 on the opposite side of Walmart here. So if you see the condition of the road, it's failed. You know, on these pictures you can see the condition of the road has failed. So this item allows city staff to start the design process. So this contract with Snyder and Associates is for both the design phase and the construction phase. The planned project the project itself is planned for reconstruction during next fiscal year.
Good. Thank you for that clarification. I was like, where's Valley Place?
Needs to be done.
It does need,
Really
yes.
bad.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this.
Yeah,
one.
I don't know for addressing that.
When that started to fail, boy, it really started. It just really.
It gets a lot of traffic.
It does.
Yeah.
All right, council, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution approving a professional service agreement with Snyder and Associates for Valley Place pavement reconstruction.
Valley
Second.
Drive.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, and you're seconding
Thank you.
Valley Drive.
Yes.
Okay. Jackie, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Parker,
Aye.
Kling,
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Southall,
Aye.
Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin.
Motion carries. Thank you so much. Moving on to other business, here comes our city manager, Ryan Waller. Got a couple things for us.
Yes, Mayor, members of council, thank you. So the first item is discussion and direction regarding bird scooters. It's called Bird Scooters, only because that's a company that reached out to us. So I might imagine that there's other types of companies that offer this service. But what we'd like to do is present to you. Charlie and I were approached by a representative from this company asking if the city of Indianola would be interested in offering this type of service. This would not be something that the city would pay for through this. This is a private company, but what they do is if you go through Des Moines, you can see there's bicycles that folks can rent. This is a service that would function very similar to that type of service. In our conversation with this representative, they indicated that they rolled it out to larger cities. It was very popular, and they were looking at other communities, pretty much our size. They liked our square. They liked the fact that we have Simpson College, and wanted to approach the city about if this was an opportunity. So through this, they have the ability the community has the ability to designate parking areas where they can drive, where they can't drive, and things of that nature. And so what we are looking for is, well, before we ask for direction, we did talk to President Keller at Simpson. We talked to Brenda at the Chamber, asked if this is something that they would be interested in. They said yes. We took this to the City Council's Executive Committee, just said, hey, look, this is what we staff have been asked. Wanted to bring it up to the full council and see if there's support. If there is support, all you'd be doing is directing our advisory commissions, planning and zoning, probably Parks and Rec, to go through and study this issue and see if this is this doable? If this is doable, where would the lanes be? What would the parking areas be? How would this be handled? What would the regulations be? So, so it wouldn't necessarily be allowing necessarily Bird to come in and operate this, but also any company that would offer this type of service can come in and follow the regulations. So there's a lot of research that would be done if the council is willing to have and ask our commissions to look into this and study this and develop a recommendation back up to you.
I think it's great.
I have to tell you, I am so excited about this. A couple of years ago, we were in Spain. They were everywhere, and it was amazing. I mean, it really was. I just think it's a great idea. And if you can get an attachment like a little cane, then maybe I could use it.
Other comments, other thoughts?
I would like to add that, yes, absolutely, please investigate this opportunity. But we maybe should ensure that certain council members would never, ever be allowed to ride a scooter within city limits.
I think she's referring to you.
I also like the fact that Simpson's already been involved in the chamber and they show support for checking it out. So yes,
And I
definitely.
think the Indian schools, we should talk to them too, if there's maybe at the high school or
Absolutely.
something that
Right.
just, yeah.
And I mean, this is, we got approached, it was right before the holidays. We told them we were gonna run it through and ask permission and kind of seek direction. So again, I mean, we'll work with our departments, we'll get it slotted for the various committees that I threw out Parks and Rec Commission only because we got the trails, we got the parks. How do you connect those? How can it tie into the trail plan? Are there parking areas that would be there? If a company was to come in there, what kind of licensing would be required of the city? So there's a lot of homework and research that has to be done. And so we'll get that slotted.
But at this point, no cost to the city.
No cost to the city. Again, there's no, there's the business model that they indicated is they just, they'd come in, they just like a food truck, they would need a permit. They need an area to operate out of. So here designated where they could park, where they could go. When, restrict them to not drive on busy streets as an example. And then they operate it. They have the app. People come in, they sign in, rent it through the app. They drive it. When they're done, they got to make sure it's parked in a designated area. They close out the app and then they get charged. The company indicated that they would work with a local company to help collect service and make sure that they're in good working order. So.
Sounds great. Sounds like you got the direction to move forward.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. So the next item is just the buildings project update. I think it was the last meeting, council approved a contract with OPN Architects to begin the architectural renting pre-design services, what we call it, with a new public safety facility and then a combined city hall library. So that's this next phase of a couple-year project. So we got all the documents signed. We actually officially kick off the project tomorrow. We've got our staff user groups will be meeting with the architects. They'll be taking tours of the various facilities. There will be, the architects advised that we have a project steering committee that serves as kind of a sounding board. So that group has been assigned. So there's a representative from the library board, the mayor, and a couple of council members will sit on that. And again, those are not decision making, but they are serving as a sounding board. And then there's another group that we'll be working with our architects on to make sure that we're engaging the community on getting some input of what should it look like. And then there'll be a full-on engagement component as part of that. So that's off and running. So
that's great.
Just wanted to fill everybody in on that. And as we do with all these projects, we'll make sure we come back, provide updates, but we'll also make sure we have regular updates in the weekly email that goes out on our website, shared with the press and others. And then just the last thing before we ask that you receive and file the correspondence. We're entering into the time frame where we'll start looking at our insurance renewals. We actually have a couple months before that, but before we do that, what we'd like to do is have a joint meeting with the IME board and city council. What we do is bring in Holmes Murphy, who's our account rep, our broker. They go out and get all the bids for us. Have a joint meeting with them, with IME board, have Gail from Holmes Murphy come in, kind of explain the process, what terms are up. One of the things that we have to talk about will be the fund balance policy for our health insurance program. So what we're tentatively looking at, and we'll be in touch with you, Jackie. I think we'll coordinate this, but what we're looking at is the March 10th as a possible joint meeting. So just want to make you aware of that.
That would be great. Good to have a collaborative meeting.
Other than that, we just receive and file correspondence.
Questions for our city manager? Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
All right, council, we need a motion to receive and file a correspondence from December 31st, 2020 and January 8th, 2021. Those are our weekly updates from city manager Ryan Waller.
Move to receive and file.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Council needs a motion to then enter into closed session in accordance with Iowa Code Section 21.51C to discuss strategy with legal counsel in matters that are presently in litigation or where litigation is imminent and where its disclosure would be likely to prejudice or disadvantage the government.
I so move.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I'm sorry. We need roll
That's
call.
gotta be.
My mistake.
Councilmember Schroeder,
Aye.
Southall,
Aye.
Merchant,
Aye.
Hewlin.
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Kling.
Aye.
Motion carries. So before we go into that, I just want to make sure everyone knows, because we do have council session following. There will be no decisions made while we are in closed session. Then we will come back to adjourn from this meeting. Then we'll take a quick break, and then we will move into council study where we're going to be talking about our budget and the streetscape project. So thank you for being with us, but we're going to go into closed session now. I also want to say thanks, Brooklyn, for being here.
Is there anybody here that's going to take their way out?
Have you?
She's done there.
I like this little screen saying we're in closed session. I think
Yes.
Welcome back. City Council is back in after closed session. Again, no decisions were made. The next item on our agenda then is to adjourn this meeting. And before we do that, just a reminder, we will go into a break then for just about 5 minutes. And then we will come back for our council study meeting where we're going to talk about the budget, very important, and streetscape, another important topic. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, we stand in adjournment. We will begin back in 5 minutes.
You mentioned more about this.
Andy, thank you for taking our guests to a undisclosed location and bringing them back again.
You can't know where we were.
Exactly. Were there treats in there? No? Oh, one's saying no and the other's saying yes. Okay.
Well, you didn't spill water on your.
Right? Obviously, the word is out. Oh, yeah.
That was my
camera. Yeah, so I think we need to raise them.
Oh, my.
Yeah. So, yeah. And so the phone calls.
Okay, well, I appreciate you doing that, and I can convey that. I agree with you. Yeah.
Because I'm, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, I think since we've been on, then we've talked about.
Oh, my goodness.
I know.
No.
How they've been.
No.
all this time.
And not doing anything about it, really. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they just need to really.
Yeah. Yeah. Make a statement on it.
Yeah. Oh, really? Where'd you?
What is this? They just
Oh,
bought it?
downtown.
Yeah, they're on the square.
Oh, it's the old.
What is that? I know, what is that?
Well, it used to be a dress store, and then it was that, it's right, like by wind, kind of, it's got the mural. on the wall on the
Thank you.
outside,
I'm
right
like,
by
I
the-
know this, but where is it?
Oh, yeah, I'm so
She
excited.
just
to have
said,
it on
the
square.
future home renovations in the work and aiming for a spring opening.
That is awesome.
Good for her.
That is awesome.
We love that.
Yeah, oh, people have been saying for a long time, they wish everybody would get on the square, you know.
Well, and I think she's done it smart, you know, slow and steady.
She kind of tested the water.
Yeah.
What's happening?
Lulabelle is moving from its current building
Oh,
onto the
yeah,
square.
see that. Oh, that's good. That's
Isn't
neat.
that
I'm
exciting?
excited about that.
A little bit bigger?
Yeah, that would be nice.
What building do you know?
Yeah, I can show it to you.
Oh. Oh, yeah, I was just, we
I
went
just
for a walk and
saw
I'm
the
walking by
store.
that and said, oh, that's a nice building.
That'll be a
So,
great space.
yes.
That's
Isn't
awesome.
that sweet?
Oh, that
excited.
is.
I'm just so excited about that.
It's just the right size.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep. And good for her. Start out
Yeah.
slow, grow, move.
And move to the square. I'm so glad she's
Yeah.
moving to the square.
Yeah, before insurance or something gets the building.
Yeah, right.
Yes, well, that's it. We need more retail.
I
And
know.
You know, there's really no retail on that side. There's
And that
restaurants.
was, that was, used to be the Scholar or something.
It was
like
the commodities broker.
Is that what it was?
It
Okay.
was Grain Commodities Brokerage Firm. And it's a nice space. And then before that, it was a dress store.
Oh,
what
was?
called? Yeah, what was it called? Heather, do you remember? What was the clothing store on the ladies where Roosevelt's going? On the
No.
south side of the, or north side of the square.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes. Yeah, Kathy
Kathy.
Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Good memory. I couldn't have come up with that name. for
Yeah, no,
anything.
I could envision it. I just couldn't think of the
me
name
too.
either.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting.
That is.
And I, good to see, get those,
Yeah.
Ted.
Well, we
once-
have good retail.
I tell you,
We really
the
do.
property all around the square is gonna be worth a lot more.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
All right, I think we're ready to call the council study meeting to order here on January 19th. First thing on the agenda is presentation on the status of the Square Streetscape project. Charlie, is that you?
I will,
Start us?
yes.
I see other gentlemen looking like they want to talk too.
I will introduce Jim and Chad from Bolton and Mink. They're gonna kind of give a rundown on what they've done on the project to date and answer any questions that you have.
Great. Thank you. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. My name is Jim Harbaugh. I'm a landscape architect with Bolton and Mink and one of the co-project managers of the downtown streetscape project.
I'm Chad Callsthorpe. I'm a project manager, also I'm a civil engineer on this to kind of fill in the other half of it. We're trying to build you something that's beautiful and extremely functional at the same time. So
get in the yang here. So back to our master plan that we did as part of the downtown area. We initially studied just the square itself, but expanded that study area out a little bit farther to include a lot of the downtown area. So some of those recommendations coming out of that master plan were bump outs at the intersections, two-way traffic as part of the project in the square, but which also expanded out from the square as well. Some nice street furnishings and benches to add some character to the downtown area. Looking at North Tower to be used as an event space, and that ties in with the architecture of the Justice Center and the kind of the grand staircase and the ability to use that as stage space if possible. Parallel parking on the business side of the square, and then angled parking on the other side of the square. The use of some contrasting pavers or color concrete to bring some character to the downtown, some wayfinding. Architectural planters, wide sidewalks that can accommodate event space and lots of pedestrians in the downtown area. Bringing in a little bit of green with street trees. And as I said before, that angled parking on the Justice Center side of the square. So that turned into this document. This is part of the master plan, just to give you a feel for what we ended up in that master planning document. A lot of those recommendations are shown as part of this, and we've tried to show the Justice Center as it's going to be in a proposed plan view there. So now we're getting into the final design of things and just a little bit of discussion about project limits. You'll notice here that we've expanded the project itself. It's not just the square right now, but we're going beyond that on side streets and also some alleyways, and that's tied in with some of the IMU work as well. That's going to be happening. And then on the north end, the two dashed areas, those are bid alternates. So if we get favorable bids as part of the project, we will include those portions of the project as part of it. And then Chad, you want to talk a little bit on parking lots there as well?
yeah, absolutely. As the project started progressing, we applied for an SRF grant to support some of the funding and support the water quality initiatives that we had identified early on in the process. And we received an initial grant for $1 million to support the project, and that is all specifically to stormwater improvements that include permeable pavers, rain gardens, and the like to improve the water quality in the basin. As that progressed, as we progressed the design, we were notified that we were receiving an additional $700,000 in funding. Hopefully this is not news to you. We celebrated it pretty good on our side, and I think Charlie. So that was able to help us expand what we can do as well to those additional dollars. So initially, to support a lot of the infrastructure improvements that are down there too, working with IMU has been great. They've been identifying old and failing infrastructure, or I won't say failing infrastructure, but infrastructure that's on the edge that needs to be replaced.
In some cases failed.
And some failed. Some have failed. We won't deny that. So we've kind of worked with them to do this. So as part of that, we added the alleyways. I'll go back to the slide. And the two red kind of squares that are not dashed. Parking lot 2 and 3 is what we're calling. I don't know what the real designation are, but we're calling them parking lots 2 and 3. We're looking to improve those as well as some of the SRF funding to rebuild those and make those more functional for the citizens.
So as we're rolling into final design, this is a snapshot just from the final construction documents that we're working on. It's pretty true to form in terms of what's carrying forth from the master plan, where we have bump outs in the intersections, and we'll have a little bit of a blow up in this area. A little bit hard to read at this area, but we're looking at bump outs in the corners, that angled parking in the Justice Center side of the square, the parallel parking on the outside. Looking at handicap parking around the whole area, bringing in some landscaping and some of those pavers. And to blow this up, this is on the south side of the square, so just to give you a reference here, the corner of the Justice Center and a handicapped area is right there. Where we have, what we'll be doing is pavers in the parking areas. Thank you. Pavers in the parking areas on both sides, and then a concrete street for good durability down here with two-way traffic on it. We did maintain a mid-block bump out just on this side of the square to make sure that we have less crossing distance here for pedestrians and tie it into that pedestrian alleyway here. Landscaping that we brought in with street trees along the area, and then bioswales where the stormwater will run into planting areas and get treated before it percolates into the ground from there. This is the southeast corner of the square where we're implementing a pedestrian archway monument coming into the square, and then also gateway monuments in the corners here. One thing I want to point out here, these bump outs, we're not really narrowing the roadway section here for the drive lanes, but we are narrowing the road because this line right here is the existing curb line or was the existing curb line before we put fencing up. And that curb line down here is down here. So what we're doing is really reducing the travel area for pedestrians. We've gone from 90 plus feet down to about 26 feet to cross that without narrowing the actual drive lane. So it slows people down in the cars, but also gives a lot more safety for crossings as well. So a little bit of the existing downtown like this down here, Justice Center on this side, about 5-foot walks with the angled parking on both sides and 12-foot drive lanes. What we're looking at in the future here is that angled parking on the Justice Center side. In some cases, we can squeeze in some landscaping area between the parking areas and the sidewalk. Wide sidewalks on the business side of things, and a 13-foot drive lanes through here. And just to note that we don't have landscaping trees all the way down the area. Those are just interspersed in. So we did this graphic as part of the master planning process, but it's really pretty true to form of what we're looking at in terms of layout. The one big difference is we're going to be putting some historic looking pavers in the parking areas here. We'll have these bump outs at the corners where we'll actually treat stormwater and surface runoff. I'll bring in some planters and the ability to have bistro tables and events on the sidewalks itself. One of the elements of the master plan was bringing in site amenities with benches and liquor receptacles and that sort of thing. And as part of that master planning process, the stakeholder group had selected these ideas in terms of what they wanted to look and have the downtown area feel like. Benches similar to this, pavers developed within the streets and sidewalks, and then some above grade plantings as well. So a little bit about branding identification, the monument areas, the brands that we're trying to put together. This is an overall look at where we're going to be putting that. And I think, a little bit hard to see, but we are actually looking at monument structures out at the highways on the east side and the south side as well, because we want to bring people into the downtown area, start that brand outside and bring it in. And then when you arrive in the square area, we'll have additional gateway monuments in the corners and those archways on the two corners of the square like there.
Oh, I love this.
So we worked with the stakeholder group. We had multiple different concepts for these elements. This is the preferred concept that we ultimately came up with, utilizing some of the brick of what some of the buildings in the downtown are, some of the limestone that the Justice Center is going to be built out of, that similar look to that, and combine that architecturally into columns that will be lit up and down to have a nice architectural presence at night, and then a pedestrian archway that people walk under to the square. And that's one of the branding items that we came up working with the stakeholder group. These are the preferred monument signs, those ones out at the highway and as you come into the downtown area. Here again, it's utilizing a very similar column to this, but we'll have a lit structure at the top here and some simple wording to welcome people into the downtown area. just some examples here of what that downtown might look like with pavers. We're keeping the sidewalks concrete up against the building and nice wide area. And then out at close to the curb line, we'll have this zone with plantings and pavers and lighting in this zone here. Easy for snow removal all the way throughout here and a nice durable material. Now these pavers in the roadway are actually permeable pavers, and these are being funded as part of the SRF grant. So we're paying for street things with that grant because we're using permeable pavers, so that water will run off the roadway into these permeable pavers and go down into the subgrade, into the groundwater. This is just an example of how they're constructed. Just wanted to show you there's several feet of rock underneath these as a storage area for that water to allow it to percolate down in a extended amount of time. So a little bit of next steps. We're really wrapping up our final engineering design right now. Throughout this whole process, we've coordinated with Warren County for the right-of-way and right-of-way changes within the Justice Center. I don't know, Chad, if you want to speak on it. It's been an interesting discussion and a historical.
Historical is the best way to say it. So as part of our research to establish the property lines, we couldn't find anything, which is really unusual for property lines in the near term. And basically, we went back to the old plat map of the founding of the area in 1848, and the basis of the Justice Center was off a rock in a big tree that were removed. And so going back to 1848. So part of this has been kind of a journey. I have an update for you guys today. We've already started the process with the county. We had to submit a plat of retracement, basically establishing the right of way the way we assume it should be. And so we've had that established. We do have the documentation now of how we're going to be swapping right of way. Basically, we're going to square it off. It is a big kind of stop sign, rounded off corner section. So we will be working with the county to get that approved to swap that. So it's about an equivalent land swap between the city and the county to be able to make the land use happen. So that way, almost all of our improvements will be inside the city right of way, and there won't be any need for any additional improvements with the county at this point.
One of the other things we're looking at expanding public parking opportunities in the downtown area, and the thing that we really came to realize was getting people to those public parking lots is as big an issue as the number of stalls. So we'll be working on signage to get to that and expand and revamp some of those parking lots that Chad had mentioned before. Here again, implementing that wayfinding system to get people off the highways into the downtown area, and implementing a phased approach to extend the common design elements. So some of the things that we're implementing in the downtown could be done in future phases that extend beyond downtown and then some. We've been very successful at this point of pursuing some grant funding opportunities and have, as we talked about, $1.7 million in grants for stormwater green infrastructure. We're not resting out, we're still looking at other opportunities as well. And then I think a big thing is implementation of the two-way conversion for the square and Howard and Buxton. So Howard and Buxton, as part of a city project, will actually be turned over to two-way before we even complete the streetscape project.
I believe we're coordinating with AP and Charlie on that, and I believe we were looking for May for the implementation and using part of the construction, the temporary access control that we'll need for the square to help kind of phase that in and make it feel far more natural, so it'll become a very natural transition.
So in terms of general phasing of the project for construction, we're working with IMU and the county and coordinating, kind of 3 different projects going on at once to make sure that we're accommodating all that. And one of the biggest things that we talked about during the master planning process with all the stakeholders and business owners is making sure that we're balancing the needs of the owners in the downtown and breaking the project into smaller phases and chunks. So instead of just shutting down downtown and say, hey, come back next year, we're really looking at in sub phases and controlling the contract to make sure that I underline under here that we're minimizing disruptions. There will be some disruption and the street's going to be torn up at some point, but we're never going to tore up the street and the sidewalk in the alleyway at the same time and abandon people out there and cut them off. So that's a big aspect of this. And that's something that we've done in a lot of other downtown settings. And so pretty savvy at making sure that we phase that construction accordingly. I want to do a little bit of a shout out to IMU and some of the things that they're doing as part of this project because it's a major undertaking for them. Undergrounding the electrical and communications in the alleyways so that anything that's above ground now will be going underground as part of their project parameters. They'll be working on installing event power on all sides of the square.
Good.
They've had some in the past before. We're putting the same in and upgrading it a little bit as well. And then we're good at assisting in lighting upgrades to the project area. So the new streets will have new lighting or recycled lighting. So I know some of the fixtures were taken down as part of the downtown Justice Center portion already.
Jim, did you ever already cover the water lines? Increasing the water?
We did not, and I think that's a great point.
Yeah, as part of the IMU upgrade that we're going through, we've been working with the water department, and we have identified we're upsizing a lot of the water main through the town and through the back of the alleyways. We'll be reconnecting a lot of things, so we'll be able to increase. There's some 4-inch and 6-inch mains, which are below standard now, so we'll be upgrading all those to 8-inch mains, so the fire protection will go up throughout the square as well. Where we're looking at rerouting some of the water mains as well to kind of remove the pipe that we don't need in the ground as well. We're also working with the sewer department to make sure that we're upgrading all the pipes that are questionable. And I think at this point, we're upgrading almost all the sewer mains in and around the square at the same time as well. So it'll be almost a brand new town.
It is.
Underground.
Full remodel.
A little bit about bidding and construction timelines. We're looking at a late winter or early spring bid on this project. Construction will begin in late April or early May in the downtown area, and will continue through 2021. Our goal is to make sure that things are shut down for the winter, things aren't left open or unconstructed in that area, and then we'll pick up in 2022 for completion in 2022 on that project.
And our goal for the construction phasing on this too is we're going to start in the southwest corner of the square and come across. That'll provide us to be able to do a phase once and not come back. So once we're done, it's open. We're not going to touch it again. This will also help facilitate the improvements with the Justice Center that's going in, making sure that they can get their sanitary main and then stormwater to drain off as well. And then we'll build up from there. We're in process of putting together a draft phasing plan and schedule that will then coordinate with IMU, the county, and their work to make sure that we reduce the impact of the square. It will be a challenge for a while for part, but the goal is to be in and then done within the slated time frame. We're also working out the contractual ramifications for the contractor being late and working out pricing and liquidated damages for those things as well. So the square will be open. It'll be kind of ugly in some parts, and we'll have some additional fencing up to protect pedestrians from going into open trenches and that. But the goal is to do that so we can work as fast as we can and get it all opened and back in the way we expect it to be quicker.
So just a summary of the project. This is an aesthetic project, but really it's a safety project as well, both for pedestrians in the downtown area and also vehicular movements throughout the downtown area. That two-way traffic is really going to increase pedestrian safety. It really helps lessen that driver confusion in the downtown area. I'm sure all of you know exactly what to do, but visitors coming in are a little interesting. I've sat at stop signs at the corner and had people turn left in front of me multiple times just in a couple of instances. It's kind of interesting. We talked about bump outs already, just decreasing that pedestrian travel area. SRF sponsor grant has been a wonderful thing for this project. It fits really nicely in with urban stormwater and green infrastructure. It also happens to fit nicely in and extends your budget considerably as part of the project. Looking at lighting in the downtown area and upgrades for that, and that wayfinding and signage that we talked about previously. Really wide sidewalks, integration of benches, that brand, if you will, of the downtown is going to be very important in terms of what it's going to look like. And then pedestrian and vehicular alleys are being upgraded because they're a little bit worse for wear. They tie in nicely with what IMU is doing. So here's where we came out from the master plan. Our budget was $4.7 million. This was pre any grant money, pre any final design, final plan ideas. Here's where we're at our 60% final design, as we're sitting today. We have our engineering costs. That's me and Chad being able to eat dinner every night. Construction costs, we're at 6.1 million right now. We have traffic signal costs potentially at $100,000 there. We had the bonus of $1.7 million of the SRF grant. We have utility costs also at $532,000. So the ultimate city cost, construction and engineering, out of that $6.2 million is $4.7 million.
And as far as so these, we don't like to put out estimates without contingency in there. So these are loaded with contingency.
Good.
So depending on a favorable bidding market and everything going perfectly, because all projects run perfectly.
In Indianola, they do.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah. We're known for it.
You can feel it as you come into town. But so we're hoping that those costs will come down. But this is kind of our estimate. This is what we would estimate to be the worst case at this point.
So with that, any questions or anything that you'd like to see again on slides? I know we blew through a lot of slides tonight. It's an exciting project for us, so we could talk for hours on things. And
I just wanted to, you mentioned this a couple of times, that the committee that worked with you all, it's the committee that came up with the design. So they've been engaged throughout the process. But we have at least 23 members, I think. So 17 of those 23 are business owners on the square, stakeholders in the community. So again, I mean, the square assessment started in 2018. Streetscape was the leading recommendation that came out of that. This committee has worked on developing this award-winning project, and they continue to donate their time and input into this. Really appreciate their efforts, and Chad and Jim with all they've done to this point. I mean, it's a great project. A lot of coordination with the county, with IMU. The water lines, the council is familiar with some of the fire safety issues we had when West Hill was going in. Those lines are not big enough to support any fire sprinkler stuff. So it's going to improve safety, improve the infrastructure around, improve safety for pedestrians, create a different environment. So I mean, there's a lot of positives with this project. And Doug Schull mentioned earlier during the Treasurer's Report about our favorable rates because of our credit score. We got great rates on the financing for this. So
Ryan, put the one word in that you need to know. I'm sure you know, but I mean, we don't refer to this as the Streetscape project. This is the award-winning Streetscape project.
You know,
he did. He put it in.
Every time he says it's the award-winning.
Something the community should be very proud of.
Absolutely. I mean, woo-hoo on so many fronts. The collaboration, the thoroughness, the figuring this all out and getting it all to work. Yes, there's going to be some bumps in the road to get us to beautification. But I think it's going to be well worth it in the end. So this is exciting. Just can we get it done this summer? Yes. I'm ready. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
We did share the same presentation with the chamber. And then we had the sustainability committee saw this presentation last week. So
it's really.
Yeah, I missed the estimated completion date.
Somewhat dependent on the alternates that are selected as part of the project. But it would be a 2022 completion.
New streetscape, new wastewater treatment plant. So it's going to be a banner year in 2022.
And part of our us not being able to finish, one, the size and scale of the project has really expanded, but also the county's not going to be out of our way. The block on Howard they're going to be using for their staging, for their equipment. So they're not going to be out of there until spring of next year. So we are kind of being good neighbors and allowing them to finish and then come in and do that work. So we're hoping by midsummer we'll be done with all the major construction, and then there'll be finished landscape work through early fall. depending, you know, and again, this is all dependent upon weather.
Yeah.
This is where all the caveats come in now. The weather, I mean, the phases of the moon, and a bunch of other.
Just pick the right tree and the right rock and just get it there in the middle.
And we're working on that.
I think the other thing not to be lost on this too, and this is one of the things I learned when I was first joining council, is how outdated our water system was under and how dangerous that would be for our community. And, you know, I don't know if people really understand that or hear it, but I realize this is a lot of money. There will be people who will say, oh my goodness, but it's going to be an outstanding project. And it really is, as you said earlier, a huge safety project for so many levels.
Yeah.
And if we weren't doing this, just think down the road,
I know.
what we'd be paying
Yeah.
for the things that aren't gonna make it.
Fire protection is
Yeah.
a huge part of it, especially with an older square lift.
Yes.
Just amazing to me. So I'm
I
really
really feel
excited.
like
I think it looks beautiful.
The city's doing it the right way, whereas we're not just looking at this as an aesthetic improvements.
Yeah.
It's really, let's build that layer cake and make sure everything down below is improved, and the investment now is gonna save money in the long run, not having to rip new things up that you just put in up.
Right. And I really like the branding efforts with the, bringing them in from the highways to the square.
Well, thank your stakeholder group, because we're just here to steer the ship, and it's really their idea.
They deserve a real compliment, because they've done a wonderful job.
Agreed. We're appreciative of them. And we're appreciative of you, Jim and Chad.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, I see Andy in motion, so that must mean we're moving into presentation on the status of the fiscal year 22 budget.
Hang on just a second while I get things straightened up.
This will be completed in 2022 as well?
I hope so.
Excellent.
His presentation or the?
The budget. No, the budget. 2022 is the year for Indianola.
There we go. Okay, Mayor, members of council, I'm here to present do a presentation on the FY22 budget. I think some of the things we're going to be covering is the major drivers for the FY22 budget, valuation change now that we got the valuation from the county, the request that we received from the civic organizations from the hotel motel tax revenue, FY22 debt service levy. I want to talk about that, talk about the stormwater fee, and then also what's coming up on the budget calendar, the items that still need to come up. The major budget drivers for the FY22 budget in the police, and mainly these drivers are in the public safety area. In the police, there's a large increase because the MFPRSI, which is their retirement system, they're on the Chapter 411, separate from IPERS. Their retirement system, the percentage that the city is paying is going up almost 1%, and that's huge for their that includes for their salaries. And then also they're replacing 5 of the in-car cameras at a substantial one-time cost. So that's part of the driving. And then in the fire and EMS, the council, we're taking the last step with the council on the staffing study that was done a few years ago. The last step is the hire of the 3 remaining firefighter EMS personnel. We do have some offset from GEMT revenue that Ryan mentioned earlier. That's to take care of some of the Medicaid that we were missing out on. And then this is the year that we have a replacement of one of the ambulance on that rotation. So that's about $220,000. And then finally, in community development, we also have new personnel being hired because we're required, as we go over 15,000 in population, we're required to have a rental inspection program. So we'll be hiring a new rental housing inspector, which will also double as a code enforcement officer. And then there's a new vehicle for that person in order for them to get around the city. Then also we have a new ongoing capital projects that's also driving the project. Of course, we have the Square Streetscape, which you just heard about. The Iowa paving project that will be starting up. We did get favorable bids on that. And then of course, water resource recovery facility and the trunk sewer that you heard about earlier. And then Hillcrest and K Street improvements that will be starting, at least the engineering in FY22. You'll be hearing about, we just passed a resolution for setting the date for the pre-authorization. I'll talk a little bit about that, about the debt service that we'll be asking the council to consider for that project. The valuation change, we did have increase in valuation. We're still above $1 billion in valuation. We did with just over 2% increase, but within that 3% average. You'll notice that the taxable valuation went up quite a bit, and the TIF went down. And the reason for this is that we are, in past practice, we had taken out more than the debt service, annual debt service, to pay the bonds for the wellness center. And so, as Doug had pointed out, there's a sizable amount in the TIF fund, and that's to pay off annual debt service in the future years for that wellness center. And now what we're going to be doing is, moving forward, is we're collecting TIF revenue just to pay the annual debt service. So what that does is that returns a lot of taxable valuation to the general fund. So it allows the city to use a lot of that more for operational costs. First, I just want to talk about the civic organization request. Many of these look familiar from past years. The two new ones were the Heel House and Herta, which is a sizable new request for the council to consider. And then what we're assuming for FY22 is that the hotel motel tax will return to normal as $150,000 that we receive each year. $25,000 of that would go to Park and Rec, and then we have our 28E partners, Bravo and CBB, which get 2/7 of the revenue each. And so that leaves, if the council were to approve all the requests, that leaves about just under $61,000 that would be used from reserves to meet these requests. I'll pause there if there's any comments or questions or anything on that.
I do. I have a question. So how have we been paying for those currently? Have we always been using reserves to help pay for those requests?
Yes, if the hotel motel tax hadn't been enough, then it's always been coming out of reserves.
Okay.
This isn't necessarily a decision point for tonight, but it will be a decision point. We're looking at February 1st, February 16th for the council to consider this and to make a decision on this at that time.
And did you say some of these are new?
The Heel House and Herta.
Oh, they're.
I don't know if council's familiar with Herta. Herta is the Heartland of Iowa Regional Transportation Agency. They provide all the transportation for elderly and people with disabilities.
And we'll have a chance to visit about this stuff at our budget workshops, won't we?
Yeah, yes, we will. Next, let's talk about the stormwater fee. As AP pointed out, Snyder did the evaluation of the system. Under the current funding underneath the stormwater master plan, it would take the city 28 years to complete the CIP program, the master program. With a $5 ERU, it'd take 11 years to complete, and at $6 per ERU, 9 years to complete. And just to recap, an ERU is the equivalent residential unit. It's what most houses is 3,600 square feet or somewhere around there for impervious area. And we assume that each single family housing is 1 ERU. And then we figure that out for commercials as far as how many ERUs each commercial property has. And so those are the current rates. Right now, the city charges $2 per ERU. So at our current revenue and needs, current yearly revenue is at $200,000. We do have some where if it's adjusted, we have about $50,000 more because of changes in billing that we found in the evaluation study. But we still have yearly admin maintenance costs that we see that we need to do with that master plan. We see some GIS data that we need to gather and some other smaller yearly intake maintenance needs that we need to address. So that's going to be about 100,000 to 150,000 a year. And then we also have some major projects that are coming up. And so you see the difference between what the city's currently collecting the revenue and what some of the needs are coming up. Again, another decision point that will be coming up for council. Also wanted to point this out. This was part of the evaluation study that Snyder did. You see where the city lands as far as the ranking of cities, our peers on population scale. This is the city of Indianola at $2 per ERU. This peer city average is just under $6, and the 85th percentile is at $6. Just some additional information there for you. Now I just wanted to touch on a little bit on the debt service levy. Currently for the upcoming year, FY 2022 debt service levy, right now we're planning at $1.40. And if you recall, for FY 21, it's just under $1. So you might think that the overall levy is going to go up. No, we've had some more taxable valuation come in. So we're looking at an overall level staying at 1363. This includes a pre-authorization levy for FY21 series. That's $7 million for the Hillcrest and K Street Avenue improvements. It also includes $500,000 that we were looking at as a contingency for streetscape, just in case we need that. There'll be the other purpose for that will be other street improvements in case we need that. But this is not to exceed, so it wouldn't be the final amount. It's just that this is the amount that we're looking at this point. And so and then going forward in FY 2023, we're looking at increasing the debt service levy up to $2 per $1,000 of valuation. This is something that Mike Maloney, our financial advisor from DA Davidson, had talked about. But this assumes that it's 0% valuation growth. And as you know, or you've heard, we've had quite a bit of construction during 2020. We've had over 80 single family housing permits, and we've had some commercial construction. We won't see that valuation for another 18 months because of the way the property tax system operates. So we're looking at $2 per $1,000, but we anticipate that to be a little bit lower because of the new growth that we've seen in the city. So a calendar of upcoming events. January 19th, we have our study session that's happening tonight. Next week, we'll be meeting with the mayor and council on the FY22 budget. February 1st, we'll be setting the hearing for the maximum property tax dollars. This is something that the legislature had implemented a couple years ago, last year we had the first one where the council has to consider a resolution, have a public hearing and resolution in setting the amount as far as the maximum property tax dollars that the city is going to be requesting for operational and for employee benefits. Doesn't include debt service levy, but to set that amount before proceeding on to the public hearing and the resolution for the FY22 budget. So we'll have that resolution and hearing on February 16th. And then we'll also set that night, we'll also set the public hearing for FY22 budget. Just want to reminder that February 16th is a Tuesday because of President's Day, the day before. And then we'll be asking the council to set the public hearing for the FY22 budget. We'll be setting that for Wednesday, March 10th. That will be a special meeting for that hearing and resolution. I have a couple of points in there for IMU, working with IMU as far as getting their numbers because we have to include them into our budget. They'll have their budget hearing or meeting on February 22nd. Any questions?
Ryan?
If I can add to Andy's presentation, a couple of things that I think are really important and I think are really things for everybody to be proud of. This addresses the priorities that were set by council. And if you recall, the priorities were based off of the community survey that was done as part of the comp plan. So addressing the roads, Hillcrest and South K Street, those are things that have been talked about and worked on with the help of Snyder for the last couple of years. So we're in a good position. We're probably a little bit better than what we talked about. If you remember last year, Andy and Mike Maloney got up and said, hey, looking ahead a year, this is what we're contemplating. So kudos to Andy and Michael Maloney from DA Davidson for thinking ahead and being ahead and planning ahead. So what was presented to you, I mean, if you remember, during that conversation, we were kind of looking at the $2 debt service levy. And at this point, we're at the 140. The growth, we've been experiencing more growth than we've had in our community. The added growth allows us to do these projects, but it also, the growth coupled with Andy's work and Mike Maloney's work on some of the refinancing of the debt as part of the TIF, but also going through that exercise to identify some of the things that can come out of TIF or how we certify that TIF debt. I mean, that's work that Andy and Mike Maloney are doing. And that speaks directly to some of the stuff that the Moody's rated in their scorecard, things that are within the control of the council, but also staff. So kudos to Andy and Mike Maloney for that hard work. Because of that, and the great work that our departments are doing, and we're sitting here, we're adding 3 new firefighters. So we're better off than what we said we were going to be a couple years ago. We're adding 3 new firefighters. We're adding a rental inspector, which is a state mandate that we have to do. It's basically an unfunded mandate. And here we are being able to, because of the growth, because of the work of Andy and the work of our department heads, we're able to, at this particular point, keep that property tax levy where we're at. So the growth and that work, that hard work really plays into that. So that's something to be very excited about. We talked to our peers. We talked about this during the ward meetings, how much of a spread there is between our peers in Warren County and the rest of the metro. And we're staying consistent. I know Norwalk's going to be adding to they're projecting to add 5 cents to their levy. So the value that we're offering, I'm pretty proud of that.
Woo-hoo, all the way around. Holy cow.
And we withstood a tough year.
Right.
COVID.
Yes.
Increased
Yes.
expense,
Yeah.
decreased income.
Exactly.
Good
Glenn.
job. Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, department heads, for your diligent work on all of this. We're good.
All right.
Other questions, other thoughts for Andy?
If not, we'll see you next week.
All right. Anything else we need to cover here in the study session? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, let's adjourn. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Thank you all.